Butter can make just about any recipe better, but what's even better than butter is brown butter. I use brown butter a lot in baking, but you can use it in savory dishes as well. So I'm just chopping up some butter, getting it melted over medium heat. When you're browning butter, you don't want it to cook too quickly. So I like to go low and slow to start, and then you can raise your temperature up till it's melty and bubbly. We're not burning it, we're toasting it. You do want to keep an eye on this. Anytime you're browning butter, don't walk away. What I like to do if I'm making any recipe with brown butter is I have everything prepared. I'm making a pasta right now, so I have my noodles already boiled. I have my garlic and parsley already chopped up, because as soon as this brown butter is ready, we want to go with the rest of the steps. But this couldn't be any easier. All you have to do is just keep cooking and stirring until you start to see little brown bits. That's the milk solids toasting up inside your pan. It definitely helps to use a light color pan. If you're using a dark color pan, you won't be able to see those bits brown up. So I like a stainless steel pan or a light coated pan, enamel, anything like that. You do want to have a specific pan when you're making this. I'm gonna add Parmesan cheese and I forgot that ingredient. Okay, this is doing fine. Keep an eye on it for me while I get the cheese. Luckily the fridge is right there. I didn't have to go far. So it will bubble and foam quite a bit. When those bubbles subside, that's when the toasting usually starts to happen. All the bubbling is all the liquid evaporating from the butter. Just keep it low. So it's starting to happen, and usually I remove the pan. The pan has enough residual heat to toast up the butter. You don't want it to burn. It's getting there. You'll also start to smell it. You'll smell this toasty nuttiness. So your nose and your eyeballs are two keys to making perfect brown butter. When you're cooking, it's helpful to use all your senses, your taste, your sight, smell. The way things sound can even be a good indicator of how things are cooking up correctly. And trust your senses. So I'm starting to smell the nutty toastiness. You can see that it's getting brown instead of that bright yellow color. So we're just about there. For most baked goods, this is perfect. This is good. We've got the toasty milk solids in there. Ooh, they're starting to brown up a little too quickly, so we're gonna keep moving fast. We're gonna add some garlic. Give that just a couple seconds. But you can see all that brown in the pan. That's where all the flavor is, all the caramelization, all that, you might have heard Maillard reaction. It's just all the brown toasty goodness. Gonna get my pasta in. This is just a bit of bucatini for this brown butter garlic pasta. Super simple, great side dish. A perfect dinner on its own. So if you weren't using this right away in a recipe, I would suggest immediately transferring it to a bowl, letting it cool a little bit, especially if you're baking with it. If you're gonna use it to drizzle over meat, seafood, or even vegetables, definitely transfer it into a bowl so it doesn't brown up anymore. Then you can just use a spoon to drizzle it on your recipe. I'm making this pasta, but this is good for so many things. Brown butter is a great base to sauces. If you're making a super simple sauce, just brown the butter. It'll give a nutty taste in the background, and anybody eating your food will be like, oh, what is that? What do I sense in here? That's a little different. So there's that. Let's go in with, never be afraid of shortcuts. I usually do fresh grated, but this was the easiest option. They were actually out of Parmesan cheese, like a wedge of it, and this was the best thing they had, so. We're going with this today. When you're doing pasta, a little bit of your pasta water, save that. Helps emulsify things together, get things nice and saucy, especially combined with brown butter, because that's our sauce. We have just a light garlic butter sauce. Let this heat back up, cook through. Ooh, nice and creamy. This is a secret ingredient because it's subtle. I just added a tiny bit of salt. That pasta water is pretty salty. And I usually, anytime I'm using butter, I use an unsalted butter so I can control the amount of salt in there. So I just added a little bit of salt. Can taste, of course, as you go, which I probably should do right now. See how it is. Yeah, even a side dish, even a pasta can be super simple. It comes down to technique, like browning the butter to make it extra special. That was really good. It's super creamy, super buttery, but has a complexity that's subtle but interesting. So good. We're almost there. So even in this recipe, you're really not seeing the brown butter, but the flavor is definitely in there. Lots of that garlic. Just gonna finish this off with a little more parsley, little color, little herby flavor. Just takes a little bit of technique and a little bit of attention to have the best brown butter sauce ever. And can't go wrong with garlic. I'd like overloaded it with garlic. Perfect. Here's another batch of brown butter I'm making. You can see the nice toasty brown bits. That's all those milk solids that are nice and caramelized. And this smells incredible. That's the one indicator that you know you've made the best brown butter is the smell. And that flavor is gonna shine through to any dish you use it in. Any recipe, any dish you make that calls for butter, go ahead and brown up the butter and it'll give you that additional flavor and make that recipe extra special. So I do this a lot of times in chocolate chip cookies and in other baked goods. I mean, even if you're making morning pancakes, go ahead and brown your butter. That's just gonna make it even more incredible. So a lot of times when I'm making brown butter, you wanna get it out of that pan pretty quickly. The hot pan will keep toasting and browning it. So I just transfer it to a bowl so it can cool quickly and not burn. Burnt butter, not good. Brown butter, extra good. Some recipes that even called for, like a chilled or a cold butter, maybe you're combining it with other ingredients, you can go ahead and chill this. It'll re-solidify and you can use it. But I like to use it in its liquid form, just like this. Just spoon it over your recipes, chicken, especially seafood, vegetables. Just makes them extra flavorful.